Hi and welcome. I'm Jennifer Britton. I want to welcome you to the October 7th, 2019 Effective Virtual Conversations call, all about keeping the conversation going. Really, in today's world, we connect in so many different ways: live, on demand, one-off, consistent conversations. And for those of you that are coaches, as you know, part of the value and impact of the coaching conversation is that it is an ongoing conversation. As we know, change, transformation takes time. It is rarely a one-off event. And this is where in the virtual space, I think we really do need to have a mindset shift around what can get accomplished in one call. Many times, if we're looking at affecting change to our behavior, change to how we do things, change to moving towards our results, it does require that we have multiple touch points. So in today's call, I wanted to cover multiple ways on how we can support an ongoing focus during your journey with your clients. Perhaps you work with business owners that are looking to grow their business. They may see some initial impact, but probably the bigger impact is what happens over time as we move up the curve and as we also dip down into the curve of the change process. As we know, it's not always a straight line. So in today's call, I want to share 4 different ways to really keep the conversation going. This is going to be a short to the point call. Really, one thing you want to be doing, whether you're doing a webinar, whether you're doing ongoing group coaching, is think about how can field work and commitments after the call keep the conversation going. We're also going to look at perhaps using peer partners or accountability partners, setting up a mighty network, and also looking at old tech, old-fashioned email. So keeping the conversation going is all about a couple of things. Number one, we want to think about what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? Is it to help people keep a focus on it? Is it to give additional tools if we're doing coaching so that we keep the focus and the coaching on helping people understand new things? Maybe they also have an appetite for new skills and experiences, and that's where perhaps some training post the conversation is useful. Keeping the conversation going is really key, and thinking about also, what do our clients want? What does it mean to keep the conversation going to them or for them in terms of frequency, length of time, and investment of time? Ultimately, what is the outcome we're aiming for? And this time investment outcome really is going to help us decide, is it a worksheet that I give people to follow up and complete before we come back together again? Or am I upping the ante and asking them to consume and look at different videos or engage in some on-demand audio or podcast? Or am I really looking for a high touch, either through a one-on-one with them or by having peer partners come together for an accountability conversation? All of these are great options, and I think a lot of it comes back to what's important for you as a business. So I'd like you to think through for yourself right now, is it strategy? Is that what you really do in your work? And there's no right answer here. Or are you having calls, having virtual conversations to help people really focus in on an objective? And notice, like with strategy, we may be doing brainstorming. In a strategy brainstorming environment, maybe there are some regular prompts to keep people going. If it's an objective, maybe it's an email prompt, which is asking people, what action did you take today? What are you noticing about the roadblocks that are coming up? What can you do to stimulate some new ideas about getting around those roadblocks? Sometimes we're really aiming to focus in on collaboration. And if that's our focus, maybe a peer partner where people come together in between the calls helps to not only get people into a collaborative conversation, but also explore how they might be working with others. Now, a big part of my work is all about action, and I think it's very easy to leave calls and all of a sudden forget about it. And so many times an email, a mighty network, something is going to help people act on things. That may also help us plan and execute the planning. So if you are working with business owners, maybe they're coming together bi-weekly, every 2 weeks to have a conversation. Could there be a planning session in the midst? And actually, I host one of these every month. I did one a week ago, Monday in the evening, and it was well attended by people who attend one of my ongoing programs. What was interesting is the focus was different. So unlike that very dialogue-based work, the planning session was all about a series of time prompts to get people moving and reflecting and noting things down. Part of that planning process was also making sure that they scheduled it in. So things that are important for you as a business may also help you identify what type of conversations are you going to fit in the middle. If it is a checkpoint, maybe a one-on-one conversation or a peer conversation might be the best one to sort of say, here's what I've done, this is where I am, and this is where I want to move to. And that will help us really note different levels of improvement. Again, if you're working with larger groups, having ongoing checkpoints in maybe smaller groupings can really help people talk through what's working, what's not, where they are on the whole change process. And a key part of this too is about getting things done. So like the action, we also have implementation. And if you are meeting bi-weekly, maybe there's a different format that you could be incorporating, i.e., for example, a get it done afternoon or morning where people come together and meet on an hourly basis to just get things done. So lots of options available in today's group world, in today's individual world. We want to get you thinking about what's important for you as a business. So if you haven't sort of isolated ideas here yet, just pause the recording, think about what is important and what options might be available to you. I'm going to keep on moving. All right, so fieldwork. Fieldwork is one of my favorites, and this is what I think really initially started to distinguish, I felt, my work as a coach versus my work as a trainer. As a trainer, I might leave people with an action plan or something to do, but as a coach, fieldwork is there very much owned by the client. So if we're working on looking at blind spots, the client is going to identify what is a blind spot they want to work on today. What is it exactly that they want to be moving towards? And our field work, hopefully, is tied to the focus of our conversations. If I'm a coach, I'm co-designing that with each group member. If I'm a trainer, I may just be getting people to focus in on one type of generic field work, and really that is geared to take action or perhaps even deepen awareness. We may also have field work that is owned by the client, is focused on a client, but we want to think about how do we keep it visible to people. Are we asking people to go somewhere to access their worksheets? Maybe it's a Teachable site or a Kajabi site. Or maybe with field work and visibility, it's simply an email, right? We don't want to downplay keeping it simple. There are so many moving parts in group programs today. So think about how you can keep visibility going. Another piece that's also really important, I think, is practicality. And in practicality, that may involve just how much time do I have and how applicable is this? Because we want field work to be practical and applicable, and perhaps having a feedback loop. So one of the feedback loops I think that really is valuable is having a peer partner. I always say that in group coaching, people may learn as much from their peers as they do from the group coach itself or themselves. So if you are incorporating a peer partner process, what that might look like is that peers come together in between the calls. If you're meeting monthly, maybe they come together at week 2. If you're meeting bi-weekly, maybe they meet on the weeks that you're not meeting. And to really make it work, here's some things I've heard over the years. Number 1, have a focus. In having a focus, be specific. What are you asking them to do? Include it in writing, follow up and let them know, because inevitably we hear it on a call, we know we need to meet with our partner, but we've forgotten what it is. So where can people go? Is it written in your manual? Is it on the note, the worksheet? Is it being sent out by email? Or is there part of your LMS, your learning management system, where the peer, there might be like a thread where the peer conversation is and where team members can also share what they want with the rest of the groups. Now, that's number 4, reporting back. Are you asking for people to share? And if so, do you have agreements around what is shared and what is kept private? Another piece of this is also making sure that people can connect. I think we take it for granted that other group members have each other's email addresses. Are we asking people to phone? And if they're phoning, what about people who might have a long distance charge? So if you are asking people to connect, make sure that they can connect. Talk through where people might find Skype or perhaps a Zoom platform where they could meet for a 20 to 40-minute window. Also with peer partners, it works very well, but you want to make sure that the people who are involved in peer partnership have the skills to make the conversations happening. So you might think about doing some additional work and support around listening, questioning skills, because there's nothing worse than being in what's perceived as a coaching moment, but then it becomes an advisory conversation, and the person didn't really want to be advised on the topic. So final consideration is also how many people are in the peer partners. We know that the more people you add to the mix, the harder it is for people to come together. So are you putting 2 people together, or are you making it 3? And sometimes there's benefit of having a triad, because if one person's missing, then everyone can come together. So think about peer partners, and again, if it's useful, just pause the recording. I've given some examples. I've also noted some things that you want to make sure you're doing, so take note of that, even if it's as simple as, I need clear instructions, or make sure that people can connect. All right, just a reminder, if you are working with folks, as I shared last month here at the Effective Virtual Conversations calls, there are some keys for effective meetings. And we may also be wanting to train our group members on how to have an effective meeting. Are people engaged? Are they feeling connected? Is there trust? Is there good design? Can people leverage technology? Are we including visuals? And are we able to be fluid? So if you're interested in more on how to have an effective meeting, check out at our YouTube channel, look up for my name, Jennifer J. Britton, and it was the September 29 call on 7 keys for more effective meetings. I spent about 20 minutes going through all these. Again, don't assume that if we're asking peers to meet that they know how to do it, they feel comfortable doing it, and that they're going to do it. We may need to support some of that team and peer development process as well. All right, a third area you might want to consider in peer partners is like, what is the role of different people? You know, often in teams, we're coaching people, and we have people who are cheerleaders. We have people who like to look at things closely or analyze things. We have other people who are like really wanting to coach or connect things. We may have the initiator. We may also have people who are very detail oriented. We may have people that are great at getting things across the finish line, or people who like to stir it up. And so we are all human beings. And I think one thing that happens when we're moving to a peer environment is sometimes we have a great mix. Sometimes it's an opportunity for us to look at learning to work with people of different styles. So just be noticing the different types of roles people might take in a group or a team context. Think about the ones that are easy for you to be blended with, and think about the ones that might require some stretch or learning. All right. So in addition to field work, peer partners, we have number 3, which is Mighty Networks. And that's really a community zone, setting up a community zone where people can come together to share information, maybe put some input in around questions that you're asking. They may participate in a poll, or they might want to connect with others. So a couple of things with Mighty Networks, and I'm going to show you a couple of my Mighty Networks, is hopefully it's a co-creation. Hopefully it's something you're not just managing, but people are co-creating together. And ideally, it's about keeping the conversation going. So I've taken a few snippets. If you want to jump in, at the Conversation Sparker Zone, we talk about virtual conversations. So there's a whole thread around that. We talk about virtual remote teams. We talk about business development for coaches and solopreneurs. We also talk about PlanDoTrack, personal productivity, and of course, group and team coaching issues. So you can follow along at bit.ly.com, join CSMN. So that's bit.ly, join Conversation Mighty Network, just to keep it in mind. If you still can't find it, reach out to me and I'd be happy to send the link to you so you can join along. This is a typical question or a typical photo. You know, I take a lot of photos of work in action. Last Monday, as I said, I did an hour-long planning session. And part of that was looking at the quarter, like what is possible? What is happening. And one thing that I like to use are Rory's story cubes. So I rolled the story cubes. These are the ones that came up: the magic wand, the key, the globe, the shadow, the tower, the footprint, the upward arrow, the sky, landing into the sky, and conversation. And so to me, I really like to include this. It may mean different things to different people, but just including it as part of the Conversation Sparker Zone may spark some new ideas for folks. So what I love about it is that, in keeping the conversation going, it may not just be a verbal conversation. Imagery, other things may provoke different things. And I guess as you saw, this yes to this might have prompted some new ideas. So if you're interested, come and join us. It's the Conversation Sparker Mighty Network. You can follow along at bit.ly.com/join CSMN. And if that link doesn't work, just reach out to me, Jennifer@potentialsrealized.com. I also wanted to just take another shot just to give you a sense, like it's not just imagery, it's also links to different things. So in the virtual remote team section, I tend to put in a lot of links to interesting blog posts, articles, etc. The nice thing about this is it doesn't clog up your email box. It is sort of separate to that. So you can sign up for alerts, or you can just get sort of regular updates. Why I chose to join this is because I liked it myself. And again, I've got two programs that I'm part of. One is an ongoing mastermind with Denise Wakeman. Thank you, Denise, for turning this on to me. And the other one is actually a course that I'm doing with Gretchen Rubin. And she uses the Better app, and Better is housed also on Mighty Networks. So it is really sort of a fun way to add value, to keep the focus and the conversation going, even if it's more of an individualized focus. Now, on that individualized focus, I think another important channel or option many of us might have is, in addition to the group calls you have, inserting one-on-one coaching, or even inserting, if you're not a coach, mentoring meetings. How can people go a bit deeper into the areas of interest to them? If you are coaching, you want to think about the amount of time you're offering. In many of my programs, I have a weekly one-on-one, but that's 15 minutes. It's not 30 minutes. It's just 15 minutes. But that has been continued to be noted by many as something that is of great value to everyone. Also, it gives people an opportunity to focus on their stuff, but it does have an influence on the cost and the program structure. So do think about how much time and cost might be associated. It really is an excellent value add. And finally, another way to keep things going, if you don't want to keep it simple, which of course is sort of one of my main mantras with group and team coaching, think about emails. So what would you want to send out to your group to keep the conversation going? And if you don't want to set up a Facebook group or a Mighty Network group, you can turn to your email. Email responders are a great one. And I'm sharing with you here some examples from the 90-Day Biz Success Program. It was a program I ran for many years, a quarterly program where the group would meet every 2 weeks. And what I would do in between the 2-week group calls is 3 times a week, everyone would receive an email autoresponder. There were, of course, a number of biz tips. So you'll see here biz tip number 34. This is a real-time shot. 34 would be around week 11 in the series. And typically each one of these prompts, it was just set up once in my email system. I sort of set it and forget it. So there's a bit of work done up front. But afterwards, I could just change the autoresponder frequency for different cohorts that I was working with. And it would go to address to the person's name. They would then have a quote and typically a prompt for them to invite thinking about it. Now today, if you don't want an email autoresponder, you might set up something like this, a quote and a prompt in your Facebook group, and you could have a shared or secret group for your colleagues where you do post something 3 times a week, and many have a scheduling prompt as well. So check that out. I think it's just another way to keep the focus, keep it visible, keep it alive. So think about that. A final one I wanted to add, it was really interesting. I had a group last year in 2018 that was all about sales. And for them, it was about getting the text going. They were very much mobile to keep things front and center. They wanted to use text. And so we used text as a way to keep the focus. It was not very frequent, but once people got a text, it was a reminder that, hey, we're back together again in X days. Take a look. What is the action you want to take? What skills have you used? So in keeping things alive and keeping things going and keeping the conversation flowing, it's not about more, right? It may be about less, and it may be about consistency. So I like to model that in these calls at Effective Virtual Conversations. Of course, I host these once a month. The next call coming up is going to be in a few months. It's going to be actually November 7th. So note that, and I'll say a bit more in a few minutes. A final option, and we've, again, just to review what we've done, we've talked about peer partners, we've talked about sort of Facebook groups or Mighty Network groups, we've also talked about worksheets, we've talked about text, email autoresponders, and I would also say video is another one. And so yesterday, I just did a little filming of this Loom video, what is nice about it is you come up on the screen. So we're going to play that in a minute. I started using it a few months ago or earlier this year to really bring to life some of the websites, just to show people where resourcing is. So Loom allows you to do currently allows you to do a number of videos free of charge. You can embed them in your email or incorporate them in different ways. But think about a bonus video message that might be liked or might be invited or welcomed by your group. Here's what I've set up. We'll see if you can listen to the audio as it goes. And here's my Loom video, just bringing to life it. So again, it's just a little fun way. I hope that you saw that. I hope actually as I shared my screen, it went to the video. It may not have. So let me just, for those that are watching again, just notice that you have to stop your share and you have to watch it again. As you can see, it's down on the bottom of the screen. I'm going to go ahead. You can hear the person, or you could also make it a lot bigger. Okay, so as you can see, it's embedded in front, but with Loom, all right, so I'm going to stop that share. But what's interesting is, again, how do we focus on different things? So Loom, another great option for you. There, of course, are many other ways, but I really wanted to bring some of the more common ones to you in terms of how you might keep the conversation going. It doesn't just have to be a one-off. I think when people do invest their time and their money, there are quick ways that we can accelerate that process. And when coaches do great work, when our clients have great impact, that can be an ongoing referral episode. So some upcoming calls, make sure that you do join me. Advanced Group and Team Coaching Practicum starting up in a couple of weeks, as is a PlanDoTrack Facilitator Training mid-November. And of course, Group Coaching Essentials will be starting up again on October 21st. Our next call is in November. I want to say thanks for joining me. Have a great week wherever you are, and I'll see you on November the 4th. All right, take care, everyone. Be well. Bye-bye.